Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk at the Round Table with Coach William Orcom, Coach David Smith, and our special guest, Coach Mckenzi Olson. Now, in this episode, we will be discussing breaking free from limiting beliefs, from generational curses, from what else, David?
Opportunities and limitations. What's your mindset and how to adjust it?
Yeah, I like that. What is your mindset? And then once you find what your mindset is, super honest, looking in the mirror, saying, okay, this is my mindset. I like it or I don't like it. How do I adjust it to make it even better? That kind of thing. Are we getting close here, Mckenzi?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the focus of kind of what I like to see and what I like to dive into is that idea of, just like you said, we have to be honest with ourselves first. If we think we're starting in one place but we're actually in another, the directions look different to get to whatever that end goal is. So yeah, you're completely right.
If we're starting in one place and we're actually in another, the end goals are different. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, let's just take it even in like a traveling perspective. If I'm here in Florida, but I thought I was in Washington State, and we're trying to get to New York. In reality, I need to go north from here. But if I thought I was in Washington, you'd actually have to go east, right? And so the direction is different if we're not being real with ourselves on where we're actually at. So yeah, that's absolutely a starting place that we have to be in is where are we now so that we can make that first step forward as an accurate first step as opposed to maybe deceiving ourselves or believing a lie so that we're not making the progress that we truly want to make.
How important is it, Mckenzi, for us to be honest with ourselves, to know where we are? And maybe we don't know, but maybe we need to be humble enough to seek guidance, to seek coaching from somebody that is going to be patient and loving and understanding with us to help us to see where we actually are.
Yeah, extremely important. If we aren't able to have that honesty, we can't have progression. And it's be chiseling away at something that either doesn't need to be chiseled on or isn't even there in the first place. At that point, we might just be wasting time. And so at the end of the day, we really have to be able to come to terms with where we are. And that can be, like you said, a humbling experience. But having that extra set of eyes is so valuable, I'm sure, as all of us have seen as coaches, to be able to both look into people's lives and have others look into ours to say, hey, I see this and it might be a blind spot for you. Let's point it out so that we can work on it.
Wow. At some point, I think we're going to have to incorporate vision into this because without a vision, the people perish, a wise man once said. And it seems like there's a delusion or a mask, some sort of masquerade that is parading itself in our culture where people who are on fire, metaphorically, think they're okay. We're okay. The government will take care of it, right? We're on welfare maybe. The government's taking care of it. Whatever it is, that's just one example. Maybe I've got 6 baby mamas and I'm drowning in back paid child support, but I'm okay. I'm all right, and like the urgency is not there. By the way, I don't have 6 baby mamas. Just a hypothetical, the urgency seems to be lacking. So where do you think a good coach comes into play in pricking that urgency?
Okay, so we had some, looks like we had some technical difficulties.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
But let's carry it on. Let's carry it on though, David. I know that that we've done these before, one-on-one. So where do you think a good coach comes in to prick that masquerade or those false pretenses of everything's all right when it's obviously not?
Well, just like you said, I think it really has to do with when they're setting themselves up, if they're true where they're at. It's key that we know, one, where we're at, and two, where we're going. So a lot of times we can't grow until we first realize, oh my gosh, here I am. A lot of people hit rock bottom before they can go up. So once we know where we're at, you know what? I have $300,000 that I'm in debt by. I have 10 credit cards. Okay. Welcome back,
Yes.
Olson.
What terrible timing. We just lost power for
Looks like he's still having bad internet here.
there we go. Yeah, it
Here we go.
kicked off the internet there for a minute as the whole power went out. Kind of wild.
Wow, here you are. You're back.
Yeah, absolutely. Got it corrected quickly.
I'm not sure. Yeah, good job, by the way. I'm not sure what you heard from my questions. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We see. Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. We seem to be living in a culture that is missing the urgency. And, a wise man once said, where there is no vision, the people perish. So at some point, I think we're going to have to talk about vision. We get to talk about vision, right? How important is it? This is a two-part question. The first part, how important is it to have a vision and to know where you're going? And second part, how can an effective coach prick that bubble of false pretenses or masquerade that, hey, everything's okay when it's obviously not?
Okay, gotcha. Let's definitely start with vision, because yes, this is something that I think is so crucial for us to dive into, especially with our clients, but also for ourselves. I like to relate a lot of things to other things because I think it helps us see the picture better. And so, if just like planning a trip, or if you're trying to go somewhere, if you don't know where you're going to go, you wouldn't buy the tickets to fly there. Right? Nobody just goes like, yeah, let's buy tickets. I have no idea where I'm going to go. That's nonsensical. But a lot of times in our own lives, we just start driving. Yeah, exactly. We just start driving without knowing what that end destination is. It's like if you don't really have that vision, like you say, or that purpose, the end goal that you're focused on, a lot of times it can mean that maybe we're stuck in the desert wandering for 40 years without really entering that promised land.
Yeah, complaining and getting killed, right? Yeah, I mean, really. Oh man. So going to the second part of the question now.
Yeah.
How can a good coach effectively ask the right question? Because I think that's where it is. I think that's what we do the best job at. We ask the right question. So how can we position ourselves is what's coming to mind. How can we position ourselves in conversation at the gas station, the grocery store, wherever we are, doctor's office, at the bank? I didn't sign a client, not yet. It's I got an FPU student at my bank. I was going to my bank anyway. I was just going there. I had some business with the bank, and God was like, "Get him. You need to talk with him. He needs you." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And he's like signed up for my FPU class, and we're like going through all of the steps. Anyway, how can we position ourselves in the day-to-day lives, to prick that button, that not the button, prick the bubble that we seem to like put in between us. We prick it and, you know, cause some urgency. Hey, you need to move. You need to move now. Like you're on fire. You need to go get your fire put out. Or maybe it's not you're on fire. Maybe it's, dude, you're so dull and boring. You need to go get a fire lit under you and do something. Like maybe it's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that ultimately, you know, we want people to find within themselves. You know, for me to tell somebody something, it's different for them than if they discovered it on their own. So there's a couple ways we can go about that, right? We can focus on pains or pleasures. I know some people are like, well, I'm more motivated by pleasure. It's like, okay, well, look at what the end of your life or even all the steps through, look at what they could look like if you made these steps. And then, you know, the pain side of things is just the opposite. Well, look at what you wouldn't have if you don't make these steps. And so that's the first one, I think, is finding that motivation. But ultimately, I think as a coach, the first step, and this is something that, you know, I've done a lot of learning in, is that just because I have my purpose, it doesn't mean that it's everybody else's. And so if I want certain things out of life, it's not only important, but it's necessary for me to take those out of the way when I'm trying to help somebody else discover what that is for them. We're not all supposed to be the exact same. That'd be a boring world, right? We say stuff like that all the time. If we weren't independent thinkers, if we didn't have free will, we're all just robots, it'd be a boring world. So ultimately, I think that's the first one, is take me out of it and let's help you discover how do we get there. Now, in the more practical sense, how do we do that? It's a culmination of a few things. You know, it's values along with passions and desires. And so let's even take it from a Christian perspective. You know, a lot of times it's, I want to help spread the gospel. I want to bring others to know the peace and joy and salvation that I have. It's like, okay, great. Now what natural giftings and talents do you have to match up with that mission that is seated within you? And from there, we go and discover, okay, what does life look like for you? And it's different for everybody.
I love it. And as you're speaking, I'm like getting convicted, you know, and conviction's good. I welcome conviction. It's the condemnation. And it's like, you know, no, I'm not, I reject that. But the conviction is good. It's like, I am convicted right now in this moment, Mckenzi, as you're speaking, by feeling less than because I'm not where I think I should be. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like the work and the toil and the grit, you know, all the hours. It's like I should be like somewhere on a yacht or something. I don't know, you know, it's just, but I'm not. And that's the reality of it. And it's like, okay, first of all, how can I get my focus off of me, like you said, and focus in on the person sitting across from me? Because that's where it starts. And how can I realize, or maybe say, how can we realize? But this is, you know, I'm being super vulnerable here, so I'll say how can I realize that though I may not be where I think I should be or where I want to be, we'll say, I'm still doing respectable work. I'm still influencing people's lives for the good. That's a win. Like, you know, what would I say to somebody else struggling with the same things? I think that's where I would start. Dude, bro, like you're still plugging in and you're still encouraging. You're still showing people the path. You're still on the narrow way. Keep going, keep digging, you know, and don't get so down on yourself because you're not where you think you should be or where you want to be.
Yeah. If, I guess, you know, this is where we get into a little bit of the nuance of words, but wanting to be somewhere that we're not, I think is okay. But maybe being dissatisfied where we are, you know, maybe that lack of contentment is where I would want to press in and say, what's wrong with where you're at right now? And why would you trade where you are right now for something else? Kind of starting those questions of why are we focusing on somewhere we're not at? Right? Yeah, like, yes, we want to keep our eye on the prize, don't get me wrong. But to not see what we have today as a gift, no matter how easy or hard it is, but rather as an opportunity to grow and learn, I think we miss something rather valuable that God set up for us to be able to glean from and to grow, and ultimately to be able to give to other people. Because the growing that we do isn't ever just for ourselves; it's to be shared.
Mm-hmm. And you know, that's powerful right there. You know, the growing we do is not for us. Because the thing is, and I love how you said that, a lot of times, especially in this world today, we see that everybody, and that's the wrong way to say it, a lot of people focus on themselves. You know, I need this, I got to do this, and they forget that there's other people in this world. But the people that are really working and striving for excellence, it's because they're looking at others. What kind of change do you want to be in this world? You know, what kind of impact do you want to be? You know, looking at those opportunities, removing those limitations, right? Changing the mindset so that we are actually looking at the bigger picture. And I think that's the big key, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of good coaches, they focus in on one person, but they focus in on the one person to make the impact on the others. I know I was working with one client, and as we were working to get out of debt, her daughter, you know, all kids go to the store, buy me this, buy me that. No, mommy, don't buy that. You need to get out of debt. Her daughter, that was powerful. Now I know you have a powerful testimony of one of your clients making an impact to the people around them.
Yeah. Are you saying for me specifically, or are you saying like you're saying that like for your client that was a powerful impact?
Do you have a testimony with a powerful impact?
I mean, I think it's my very first client actually was, but the impact was on me. As opposed to, I mean, I'm sure it's hit other people too, and it's been a testimony that I get to share a lot. But this couple, so they still are, they're in their 60s, and you know, they've had spouses who, you know, they're a widow and widower kind of deal, had passed away, but they wanted to get married. Right, this 60-year-old couple, and they're engaged, and she said that they aren't going to get married until the debt's paid off, his debt, right? And so when we met, their plan was for 10 years to have all that paid off in 10 years. And I went, phew, that's a long time. We're talking like mid 70s now before, you know, if you guys want to get married. And so I said, well, look, I can't promise that we can do anything faster. But maybe we'll just look into it. And so even with a little bit of hesitation, you know, we proceeded with coaching, and we saw that 10 years by the second meeting, that 10 years had turned into 3. Like, look, if we do these things instead, we can actually do 3. And then by the 4th meeting, it was actually, I think we can do it by the end of the year. And so we started in January. And then by May, it was actually, we're getting married in July. And so they were out of debt, married in July, and actually at the very end of July had closed on their house together. And so for me, the change was, first of all, because it was my very first client, I was like, wow, I can really do this. You know, I mean, I usually believe I can do things maybe to an, I won't say unhealthy, but extreme level.
Excuse me.
but to really see it happen and to see that, wow, I can have this impact, and this is a place where I can really serve people. Changed my mindset, and it made it so that I had that confidence to be able to really serve others. And I don't know, you guys have probably been here, but when you're in those consultations or those first few meetings in the very beginning with the client, especially when you first start your practice, sometimes like, can I really provide value here? But when you get enough of those repetitions under your belt, you go, yes, I have the confidence built, and I can absolutely do that. So it was a mindset shift for me early on in the business, so that I could reach more people and have that confidence, and so that my lack of confidence didn't overflow onto them like, oh, I don't know if this is the person for us.
Right.
So just that ability to affect more change.
Yeah. Break free financial. So they broke free from those limiting beliefs from 10 years down the road to 3 years to what, 2 years to that year.
So
to just
7
a few
months.
months.
Yeah.
Wow. So just curious, Mckenzi, was your business name Break Free Financial before that, or
Yeah.
did that like play? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's really good. And I absolutely love the fact that you acknowledge that you got like sharpened, like probably as much as they did, not more, from the coaching session.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's powerful. And by the way, just so you know, Mckenzi, Mary Bibb is in the chat, and she loves how you handled that. You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah. It's and this kind of goes back to your question earlier, William, of as you're talking about, like, if you're dissatisfied with where you're at, right? You miss out on those kinds of things if you are. I could have had the mentality at that time of, I only have one client. I'm making, whatever. I have one client. I've only made this much for the year. That would be a really easy way to miss the beauty that was in that situation, potentially even distract me from being able to serve these people in the way that we were able to, how we were able to get them to where they are now. We might have missed that if my focus was on something outside of, I'm really grateful for being here and what I get to learn.
Yeah. There's something about gratefulness. It breeds confidence. Yeah. I'm reading a book right now. I'm actually reading a book with another RPC. It's called 1,000 Gifts. And in the book, the author is a mom and a wife. And it starts out with a tragedy. Her brother actually died at like birth. And they're like moving through the story, and she is like listing the things that she's grateful for out systematically. She doesn't go one by one, but she skips around whatever. You get the gist. Something she says in there. She says Eucharisteo, which is I think Greek for Thanksgiving, gratefulness, bridges the gap between our hearts and God's. Without gratefulness, we can't be connected. Like we were just talking about, the same God who died for us on the cross of Calvary, at least sent his son to do it, killed many in the desert for complaining. There's something about Eucharisteo, thanksgiving, gratefulness that bridges that gap and then draws other people to us. I want what he's got. I want what she's got. Right? There's something about it. It's just a demeanor. It's a confidence. Maybe you've got something to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm a pretty new coach. Ultimately, I really started in January of this year, and there's a lot of fear that tried to come with that. I quit my last job just one day I was like, I'm tired of the rat race and chasing money. And I know that like I really want to be somewhere where I'm helping people and I'm able to serve them in a capacity like this. I thought about being a counselor, a therapist, all kinds of things. And I said, I'm done with that. I'm just going to start this. So I was making $0 at the beginning of this year. I'm going to do it. We're going to figure out a way to pay the bills. And having that as one thing like that, could have had that fear or even a lack of gratitude as the year progressed, because things like in April, I had an emergency room visit. We got a pretty big bill from that. This wasn't in the plan, not my plan, but that's okay. And so there's a lot of things there that I could have missed, but the gratitude is I've seen every single month and every single time I get a client, whether I get him and we have that extra income or I'm able to serve them and see them grow on both ends. I'm able to have this gratitude to continue to push me forward so I don't burn out. I'm able to live into my purpose. And at the end of the day, the enemy doesn't get a win out of my fears, doubts, and insecurities. Rather, I get to push forward and say, this is what I know I'm supposed to do. And if that's the case, I can't fail.
But
and there's that confidence.
I would actually say, I can't fail no matter what anyhow, right? Because even when we fail, we don't actually fail. You fall forward. You learn from mistakes, and it just grows you even stronger.
As long as you learn. Absolutely.
Right. So I say there's no way that you can fail. All we do is learn and we grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that you said that, because eventually I truly do believe that too, where ultimately everything ties in at some point. Even if today someone's still struggling with something, it doesn't mean that eventually it can't tie into the benefit of someone else or even themselves so that they can be grateful for it. Mm-hmm. I had another lady I was working with that she's had a real hard run of things. She's 73. And when she was 66, her and her husband both worked for the same hospital. When she was 66, that hospital went under, and all their retirement was in a pension. And so they lost all their retirement money. It was gone. So they just lived on Social Security. Like, that's fine. We can make this work. Well, 2 years after that, when she turned 70, her husband passed away. So now they get the larger of the two Social Security checks. Right? And now she's like, well, man, I can't really live on this. The year after that, her house gets broken into, and there's all kinds of things that were stolen out of her house. And then people are opening up credit cards and getting loans and all kinds of things because they got her information, right? Turned into a huge mess. Didn't get cleaned up until about 6 months ago. Really hard situation. The thing is, the one that's beautiful of it is, for her, I mean, she still has a smile every single day. She's like, that's all right. Like, went back and I'm working at the hospital. I'm a nurse. I'll just do what I got to do. But the other part that's so beautiful of it is because I was able to meet her, the amount of people along the way that I've been able to encourage to make the right steps. Like, oh, I have a pension, I'm fine. Well, pension's great, but do you have anything that's yours? Because at the end of the day, the pension's not really yours. Or people are like, I don't need any identity theft protection. Well, maybe we should look into it a little bit. You never know, because look at this. Mm-hmm. And so being able to use that story even to affect other people, it's you're right. It does come full circle, and we can learn from it, and it goes further than us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. These are real people with real lives, real troubles, real failures, real successes, and real wins that we get to pour into. So, I'm in the middle of a revamp. There's kind of a restructuring in my coaching practice. Instead of going from like one flat fee and say if anybody wants to work with me, they got to pay this. I'm redoing that because I was convicted real time. It happens, and I love it. I've worked with clients who really struggled to meet my coaching fee, and it's like they're scared, and I'm having to like talk them off of a cliff a lot of the times in the sessions. And then maybe I've met with some clients that made enough, and they're just like, we've got a ball game to go watch. They're not taking it serious at all. So it's like meet them where they are, not just in the coaching sessions, but in the pricing.
Oh yeah.
So taking 10%.
Mm-hmm.
It could be $50 a session. If they're making $100,000 a month, it's $10,000 a session.
Sure.
But I'm doing it for them, because if they're not taking it seriously, coaching is collaborative. They're not showing up, we're both wasting our time.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
That's funny. I'm glad you said that. I recently did the same thing. I had some struggles with some high earners, and also people that are a little under what that flat fee was. And I went, you know what? Ultimately, I'm here to serve. And if I could do it without the money aspect, I would. But as anybody knows, if we don't have pain or skin in the game, we don't tend to change.
Well, I would challenge. I would challenge for one thing. You said you want to be able to, if you could do it for free, you would. Mm-hmm. And here's why I would say that. Thing is you guys are both Christians.
Sure.
You guys both give money to your church.
Mm-hmm.
Typically 10%, right?
Yeah.
So what would it look like if you give 10% of your clients? So 1 out of every 10 clients gets free time.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, like you said, they still have to have skin in the game, right? I'm not going to take no money from you, and you make sure that they're worth it, because we had this one coach, and they decided they were going to give a charity case to a person, and they said, "Great, I'll definitely use your coaching. Just let me get back from the cruise."
Right.
Wait, where'd you get the money for the cruise? So if they definitely need it, definitely give it to them, but then they still have to have a buy-in. Now the buy-in's not money, but I'm going to make them work harder. I want you to do a few more exercises. I'm not talking physical exercises. I'm talking about exercises to whatever you're doing, right? But you're going to do more work because you're not paying. But people that need it, I do have a leeway for people that need it. Now, with that being said, we are at our halfway period. And so I just wanted to let everybody know in the chat. We do have 7 people in the chat currently right now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask and we'll plop them out. We do have a sponsor that you can look into the description for. And for those people out there that want to post ads, because after all, ads are important. The sponsor today is actually giving you a buy one, get one free. You post an ad and you get a free one. And it's with quick ads. And the description is below. When you use the link below, you will get buy one, get one free ads. And so if there's any questions, feel free to ask and we will plop it through. And we're going to continue going.
I like it. Yeah, ads are important. I was just in Subway the other day. It's kind of a tangent. David, I love tangents. And I was eating fresh. And while I was eating fresh, I asked the girl behind the counter who was making my sandwich, a very sweet girl. I said, marketing works. And she kind of looked at me. And I'm like, here, finish this sentence. Snickers. And she's like, satisfies. And she's like, oh, yeah. Anyway,
Don't be hangry.
So what is it?
Don't be hangry.
Right, don't be hangry. Burger King. Have it your way. So as coaches, we need to have ads. We need to capitalize on how the brain works, marketing, and when people hear a phrase or see a logo, they need to think about us. And they need to remember, they need to talk and have that word of mouth and say, okay, I know a coach, Mckenzi Olson, David Smith, William Forcum, who can really help you and pour into your life. And I think that's another reason why we should have a very detailed, trimmed out, exact niche of people we work with for that same reason. Do we have to only coach people in our niche? Absolutely not. But do we need to have that for the Mind Association, for that word of mouth, for that logo, for that branding? Absolutely. I think it's a must.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so opportunities. When we step out and we look for those clients that have to have that mindset, after all, we all need a mindset, but they have to have that mindset of where they're at is not where they want to be. And they struggle with how to be able to adjust that mindset, get rid of those limitations, and open those doors of opportunities. And I know you said you've only been coaching since January.
Yeah.
But I would challenge and say you've been coaching your whole life.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say paid coaching. The business has been running since January. Yeah.
Because I know with how powerfully impactful you have been even today. I know when you were in school, you were inspiring other kids. You know, you just have that about you. So opening up those opportunities, what does that look like?
Oh, man. It can look like a lot of things because people are set free in different ways. I'll say that. Some people just need someone else to believe in them. Some people need to believe in themselves. Well, I mean, there's a portion of that. Some people, it comes in so many different forms. But I'll say for me personally, even 5 years ago, I was a painter making $13 an hour. Right, pretty rich guy, and I had worked up my way through the job that I was working at, and I got into the top, and I was a foreman, and there's like 5 guys under me in the shop, and I knew I could do it in there, right? My beliefs took me that far, but it wasn't until my boss came to me and he said, you have 2 options. He said, either you can stay here and I can teach you how to run the business and eventually you can buy it from me, or you've got to go somewhere else that you can grow bigger. And I was like, that's such a wild thing for him to tell me, because he knows I don't want to paint. I've told him that a lot of times. I was like, this isn't my thing, but I'm here because it's paying the bills. But he unlocked that idea for me that, no, I can go do more, because always for myself is, if I start somewhere else, I'm going to go back to $13 an hour, start at the bottom. I don't have a degree. I don't have this. I don't have it, right? Those are my limiting beliefs, because I don't have all these whatever certifications and qualifications, degrees. Somebody doesn't want me to do a job, or maybe even I can't do a job. But when he came to me and said that, I went, well, if those are my only 2 options, I guess I'll start looking for somewhere else to go. And so I did. And within 2 weeks, I had a job and I'd switched over. And I went from running 5 guys in a paint shop to running about 100 people in a steel manufacturing company. And it's so funny, too, is my mind was still so small when I went in to the interview. So I was making $19.50 before I went and did my interview. I went and did the interview. I was like, I think I could push it to $20 an hour. I was like, I think I could ask for that. That was me thinking big at the time. And so I got it. I got the job, whatever. That was great. But it was that action right there, just in that maybe month of time between my boss pushing me to say, you need to go and grow, and me getting something that I didn't know if I'd actually be able to get. That unlocked something for me where at that job over the next 18 months, I went from $20 an hour to 38.
Wow.
And was making bonuses, continued to take on more and more departments. Now, I was honest with them up front. I was like, look, my wife and I are going to be here forever. We're probably going to move across the country. So, I just want to be forthright. I don't want you guys to feel like you're duped. I told them that in the interview. And so they still took me, which is great. But if I had stayed there, most likely I would have been the foreman of the shop, because there's like 3 of us that ran it in different capacities. And so I was production control, and then there's QC, and there's the foreman. But yeah, so that change of mindset is really what started projecting me forward into, wow, there's way more that I can become, that I can do. And in that growth, that's when people started coming and asking questions. And really when I started going into the coaching route, now there's no charge coaching at the time. But, ultimately I eventually started doing this business on my own. But yeah. So that can be one of those things, is just having somebody come in and believing in you and saying, look, I'm going to push you to go do something bigger than what you're doing right now, because I know you can do it. I don't know, for me at least, that set me free.
Yeah. I can relate so much to that, specifically of having somebody else believe in you, especially in a position of influence, is looking at you, and you could tell he meant it. He wasn't just blowing steam. Like he knew, he could see your potential, and he looked at you and he said, hey, these are your 2 options. And there is something about something very special about having somebody. A lot of times it's a male, who's going to look at you and believe in you, and it unlocks. I get that, and that's so cool. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you.
So, just to bring up a couple things from chat,
Sure.
Aaron agrees with Mary. Brother's boss told him that brother needed to gain some more knowledge, as he can in 2 years, that he needed to go and to start his own business. And he loves, Mckenzi, how you have changed your mindset.
Yeah. I love that. I would just ask him, is the brother that we're talking about here, is he having a hard time going and doing that, or did he take those steps? Because there's something in the middle there. If he's taking the steps, great. I love that. But there's something holding you back. I'd be interested to see if, well, obviously it's somebody else we're talking about, but I have to know what that is. Yeah. Just an idea. I don't know. This came up to my head. When I'm working on limitations with people, there is a type of client that I really do like, and I'll work with it, with anybody. But the people that, like, if you tell them to just kind of go run with things, and sometimes they get hurt, right? They jump on the bike a little too soon. That's my favorite client, because it makes me laugh and it makes them laugh. But a challenge that I like to give people a lot is, what are some things that you're afraid of doing? Not even just finances, but what are those things that, like, afraid of this, afraid of that? I don't like singing in front of people. I don't like dancing. That's me, right? They're things that I like genuinely get afraid of. But there's a bunch of other stuff too that I had a list. And so there's a season in my life that I went, I'm just going to start doing the things I'm afraid of every single time an opportunity arises, or I'll even create the opportunity. So I just started pushing through it. And once that happened, I was like, oh yeah, there's not really anything to be scared of.
Come on.
It's all fake.
I will say, so there's nothing to be scared of, but you got to know yourself. For instance, some people are gifted in music, and some people are not.
Not me.
I am not
not
gifted
me at
in
all.
music. I'm gifted in gab.
Yeah.
I can talk to
Sure.
you till the cows come home, but it is not music. Matter of fact, at my church, they were looking for another person to lead worship. And there's certain qualifications that needed to be met to be one of the worship leaders. And I was like, I can't do that, but I can do this. Does that qualify me? No, if I only get one of the 3 qualifications, that don't qualify me. Okay, so just to give a follow-up, His brother took the steps at 25 years,
Love that.
and his company grossed $1 million.
Amazing.
So,
Good for him.
yes, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, David, I believe I agree with you to an extent. There's also a point of me that likes to stay in like kind of the dangerous area of things, because even Moses is like, I can't talk very well. Like, I shouldn't be the spokesman for all of Israel. And God's like, no, you're gonna go do this. Now I know there's a whole burning bush and there's everything else in the middle. I get that.
Well, and the funny thing with
But
that
I do
story,
think there.
funny
Yeah,
thing with that story is, so he said he couldn't do it. So God says, "Okay, I'll give you Aaron." But
sure.
then when it came down to it, he actually did it, because in that
Yeah,
travel,
well, you
he
did.
got the strength to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think there's a good part of knowing who we are, and I think that's completely true.
Yes.
And living into those talents. But at the end of the day, if I'm like, you know what, I think this is holding me back from something, or even just as a good exercise to fight fear in your life a little bit, stepping out can be fun. It can be exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. When I hear about maybe somebody's bored with their life, or they're just kind of going through the motions or whatever, that is a really good exercise. What are you afraid of? Make a list. Maybe rate it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
This is a 10. And if they're all 10s, you need to go see a psychiatrist. But this shouldn't be all 10s. But then do it. Maybe treat it like the debt snowball. Start with the smallest and just work your way through. It's like a muscle. We build it, and it's awesome. It's what we get to do. I went through a period in my life when I was doing that, and I don't think that I would like to stay in that season.
Mm-mm.
It's like, no. But I think that the seasons ebb and flow, and I think that is an important season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't want to be at the point of self-destruction where we're just creating fear in our own lives. But if something's just sitting there and you're like, man, this always keeps me back, press into it, break it, get some freedom from it. Yeah. The monsters under our bed tend to be a lot scarier in our head than they actually are.
Yep. Yeah, and it's key that you say that, because, like, for instance, you take a look at a lightning bug. They light up, they're very beautiful, all that kind of stuff. But when you actually get close to them and actually see them, they're actually very ugly.
Yeah.
So, what it appears is not necessarily what it is. And a lot of us, we have fears. We all have fears. And whatever our fears are is really nothing. For instance, a lion can take you out. But do you realize a lion's more scared of you than you are of them? If you actually challenge them, they will actually run away. Why? Because we're the ones that actually have hands, and we can actually make fire, and they can't do that. So yes, they're more powerful than us, but we are smarter than them. That's why we scare them. So again, limiting beliefs or your fears, you can let them ruin you, or you can step into it and conquer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that it's very interesting. Fear of rejection, fear of failure are the two like common denominating fears of all of us, basically. It's like I'm not scared of failing. It's like, yeah, you are. You're just not being honest. And I think that it's interesting to compare that with faith, we'll say. Because or fear of failing. Well, in Christianity, he's already won the battle. Or fear of being rejected. He'll never leave us or forsake us. So it's almost like he knows what scares us. The common denominator through the 66 books, we'll just say this, is do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. That tells me two things. We're afraid, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's no need to be. Yeah, you got to find those things that push the envelope a little bit. I found, it's a great timing that this happened. 2 weeks ago, had a consultation, and because I started going to the percentage rule, right? This individual, for a year of working together was going to be $100,000, and that's the price I gave him. I had to do everything within me to hold that number back. Sorry, not the number, the laughter back from saying that number. When I said it out loud, I was like, oh my gosh, did I really just say that number? That's wild, And you almost go through it's almost like a mourning process, after the consultation's done, but not necessarily those stages where it's like, wow, that's really exciting. What if we get it? It's like, oh my goodness, could I actually do this? I don't even know if I can bring that kind of value. And it's like, oh, well, it's the same. It's bigger numbers, but the struggles are the same regardless. At the end, this is where I landed. I'm so glad that I did it because the confidence it built in me to be able to, with the next person say $3,000, $5,000, whatever it is. It just, in perspective, doesn't seem so crazy, right? Kind of blew the proportions out. Conquering that fear, like we were talking about earlier, made it so that doing those things that I was already doing that I wasn't really so scared of are almost just common. And the confidence, I think, like you were talking about earlier, that is able to come out from that, just for being thankful to be in those situations, is one that has reaped way more reward than I would have expected. Yeah,
I like it.
So give a challenge. Go find yourself a $100,000 bid that you'll put out there. Just sit there shaking in your boots a little. It's a good time.
Well, and
for sure.
I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
When you get those clients, those limiting beliefs that we get, like you mentioned, I can't serve that person. However, the thing is if you look at it a different way, right? Like you said, you serve them the same way, but you don't.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. They're making more money. Whether you make A or B or C, it doesn't matter. You're having a buy-in.
Right.
That buy-in is what I'm giving you value for.
Right.
So I'm providing you the same value that I'm going to provide William. But you guys make different amounts of money. So I charge you differently. But the only reason I charge you differently is so you guys feel it the same way. Now for me, if you make under so much, I charge you a set price because you're going to pay at least this. If you make over, I charge you a percentage. Because I'm going to make at least a minimum of so much. But you're going to
where
feel
there's
the
no
same
margin,
way.
there is no ministry.
Exactly. And like I said, I do give 10% back. Because I give 1 out of every 10 clients a free, free time. So I have to be able to provide for that. So there's going to be a minimum, but when you make over a certain amount, then it's a percentage. But the pain is the same.
Right.
Because in order for you to change, you have to feel it.
Yeah, it's like if you go to the gym, if you don't feel any pain going to the gym, you're not going to get stronger.
And even the military.
At the gym.
One of my clients is a Marine, and he's actually going to be a millionaire very short. But the funny thing is in the Marines they teach you pain is a good thing because it lets you know you're still alive. It also lets you know you're still growing.
Yeah.
Because if you know pain, you're not growing. If there's pain, your body's trying to heal up. So if there's pain, there's growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. It reminds me of a story about the greatest of all time, boxing champion Muhammad Ali. And he was practicing doing a gazillion reps. And somebody was watching him, you know. And after he was finished, they asked him, how many reps did you do? And he said, 10. He said, now I know that you did more than 10. I was watching. How many reps did you do? And he said, 10. I said, I don't know, maybe this is why you box. You're just not that intelligent. Too many blows to the head, right? He said, I don't start to count until it starts to hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so just to give a few comments, Aaron it says, with God all things are possible, and in Mary, and this is kind of interesting, I didn't even realize this, so it's awesome. There's 365 scriptures about being afraid.
Yeah, one for every day.
Isn't it, that's exactly what I was going to say, one per day. So that is a remarkable thing. So now at this point, I do want to make 3 announcements, and we'd like to do 2 frees and 1 paid. First of all, for those coaches out there, we have a very powerful community that brings all coaches together, and this is a powerful community. It has a lot of free workshops, trainings, different things like that. It is very powerful, very impactful. You have to be involved. There's going to be growth there, okay? And every single coach in this world needs to be part of it, okay? It's just something you have to be in. Now, we also have a promotion going on right now. The funny thing is, it's all about dogs right now, okay? We had Spoil Your Dog National Day, and then we have National Dog Day coming up. So everything in between is You're Such a Dog promotion. So we're going to give you a bone, 50% off coaching. So you want to do group coaching for those coaches out there, we have that at 50% off. Not 50% off, I'm sorry. Buy one, get one free. So you pay for 1 session, you get 2 sessions. Basically, it's still 50% off, but it's, you get 2 sessions for the price of 1. Then we also like to make one more announcement. Just to let you guys know, coming up in this next month, starting in September, we have a lot of things that's changing. We're going to be doing a lot of things for marketing. So for those people that are looking to grow your business, marketing is going to be a huge thing coming up. We got a lot of great things coming in this next month. So this is just a teaser that you want to stay plugged in because it's going to be powerful. We have a special person, matter of fact, a special person that's in viewing this podcast right now. They're actually one of the ones that's actually doing the marketing, which is going to be phenomenal. So make sure you stay tuned because you don't want to miss it. And also, I want to give props for Mckenzi here. When you see him, make sure you get with him because as you can tell, he is a powerful coach. He says he's only been coaching since January. As you can see here, I don't see it. Okay? He's a mover and a shaker. So when you get the chance to talk to him, make sure you talk to him because he's powerful. Did you have any final words, Mckenzi?
No, the only thing I do want to put out there, I guess, is I'm more than happy to help you guys along the way. So anything you need or want, I should say, need, that might even be a limitation. But anything that you want, that you desire that I can help you with, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you get there.
That's right. Any final words, William?
Yeah, thanks, David. Really looking forward to seeing you around the community, Mckenzi. If you're not already a member, we're going to get you plugged in today. Thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure. I've had a blast, and hopefully we'll be able to get you on sometime next year.
Awesome. Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
Yes, sir.